Nevada Democratic governor vetoes national popular vote bill. Now, this story was pretty big when it happened because it was another state joining what's called the National Popular Vote Coalition, I believe. Could be wrong. National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. There we go. Basically, what they're trying to do, if you don't know, they're trying to rally as many states as possible so they can secure 270 electoral votes. And their idea is that whoever wins the popular vote in the country gets all of their votes no matter what. It is one of the most idiotic and insane ideas I've ever heard, especially when you realize most of the states that are signing on are blue states, meaning they almost always give their votes to Democrats anyway. The only thing this could end up doing is giving an opportunity for these states to give all of their votes to Republicans. It makes no sense. You may have seen my videos on this in the past. So let's read this news, and then I want to go over some 538 data talking about the issue. They say, Nevada's Democratic Governor Steve Sisolak on Thursday vetoed a bill that would have pledged the state's electoral college votes to the presidential candidate who wins the national popular vote. After thoughtful deliberation, I've decided to veto Assembly Bill 186, Sisolak said in a statement. Once effective, the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact could diminish the role of smaller states like Nevada in national electoral contests and force Nevada's electors to side with whoever wins the nationwide popular vote rather than the candidate Nevadans choose. Why in the hell would anybody want to do that? Think about it. If you live in a state and you vote for somebody, you want your state to vote for that person. Why would you give up that right to New York and Los Angeles? Beats the hell out of me. The legislation approved by the state's Senate last week would add Nevada to the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact and pledge the state's six electoral college votes to the winner of the national popular vote. The move would effectively abolish the Electoral College, which is used to determine who wins the White House, and instead rely on the popular vote to determine the presidential winner. So the other big issue that people often bring up in this regard is there are a lot of Republicans who live in blue states who don't vote when their states are, because the state's reliably blue. So we don't even know how this will impact the country. You've got a lot of these Democrats are thinking, hey, we keep winning. Like, God, it's so amazingly short-sighted. First, they look at the numbers. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. Republicans should not have won the White House. Therefore, let's just do, politics based on the popular vote. Okay, fine. Let's do it that way. What happens then when a bunch of Republicans start voting in their blue states because they now know their vote counts? All of a sudden, you might see a change in that blue states where Republicans don't vote. All of a sudden, now they're voting. There's a lot of red states. Think about this. There's a lot of red states that have Democrats. However, red states tend to be less populated in many circumstances, not entirely, than blue states. California with, 35 million people. California is always blue. How many Republicans in California would now vote and dramatically shift the tide towards Republicans, and then all of a sudden, safe blue states just give up their rights? They look at the fact that because they're reliably blue, they're seeing a big popular vote number, and they're not thinking about the actual statistics and what will end up happening. Outside of that, why the hell would you give up your right to choose who you think should be president? Man, these people are nuts. They say 14 states and the District of Columbia have passed legislation to join the pact, which will only take effect if the number of states holding the majority of the Electoral College's 538 electoral votes join the agreement. Colorado, Delaware, and New Mexico all approved laws to join the initiative this year, bringing the pact up to 189 electoral votes, 81 short of the 270 necessary for it to take effect. Attempts to get Nevada to pledge its 6 electoral votes to the national popular vote winner has failed twice, with attempts in 2017 and 2009. Legislative sessions failing to make it to the with attempts in the 2017 and 2009 legislative sessions failing to make it to the governor's desk. So now you actually have them passing it. So before they've tried, they've failed, now they passed. This year's effort was contentious in Nevada's state legislature, being approved 23-17 in the state assembly and 12-8 in the state senate. The National Popular Vote Compact has been proposed for years, but has picked up steam recently, although almost exclusively in Democratic-controlled states. President Trump was elected in 2016 after securing the majority of the Electoral College votes, while losing the popular vote to his Democratic rival Hillary Clinton by nearly 3 million. George W. Bush also won in 2000, while losing the popular vote to Al Gore by more than 500,000. But They all played by the same rules. Okay, this is the most important part of the argument about the Electoral College. They're all playing by the same rules. Al Gore and Hillary Clinton have had every opportunity to campaign, and they knew exactly who they needed to win, and they didn't win. So sure, a lot of people say, why should Florida, why should Ohio, why should these states choose ultimately who gets to be president? Well, they don't. Just right now they do. Trump flipped the blue wall, or at least portion of it. Michigan, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. He flipped a bunch of states that Hillary Clinton thought she could never lose, and thus she didn't campaign there. That is why the system works. There was a point where California had very few people, and they had a lot of electoral votes, and now they have a lot of people. They're like, we deserve more. Well, I'm sorry. We have this system in place. You know the rules, and it's meant to protect smaller jurisdictions. No better example is Nevada, with a Democratic governor saying, this could take away our voice. Nevada, as a state, has the right to choose a certain number of electors to go to who they want. Why sign away that right to the big cities? Here's an interesting story, though, from a couple days ago. The movement to skip the Electoral College is picking up steam. This is from 538. They do include the latest update that Democratic Governor Steve Sisolak has vetoed it. But they bring up some interesting points, and they have some interesting data visualizations, which I think are interesting we should look at. The National Popular Vote Initiative is picking up steam. When states joined the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, when states and how many Electoral College votes they have. So this is really interesting. We can see right now we're nearing, we're at 189, and they need to break this threshold of 270. They're more than halfway there. And so we can see that many of these states joined before 2010, then between 2010 and 2015, and now we've had a few states join, but most of them before 2015. With Donald Trump winning and the national popular vote going to Hillary, many of these blue states are saying, hey, we shouldn't have lost. Well, good luck convincing red states to give up their right to vote for Republican. I don't know. It's just, there's an amazing thing that happens when you get older, that you start to realize that the people running the show are just as dumb as you are. You know what I mean? When I was younger, I remember this great moment. I could always ask my dad anything, and he always had the answer. And then something happened around the time I was 18, and I had a question, and he went, I don't know. And I was like, wait, what? What do you mean you don't know? You're dad. Like, dad knows all, right? And I also started to realize that a lot of the stuff I thought my dad was completely correct on, sometimes he was wrong. But he tended to know a lot of the answers to most of my questions because they were simple questions from a teenager who was trying to understand simple things about the world, right? Like, how do you do a resume? And like, which job is the right job? And like, certain life lessons that you get with age, certain wisdom. At a certain point, though, it was about expertise. It was about understanding current events and in-depth things. And then I got to a point where I started to realize, like, man, these people in the state senate and the state legislature, they have no idea what they're talking about more than basically anybody else. And especially when you consider that a lot of these people are politicians professionally, that means their expertise is in being a politician, not in any of these fields. So think about it. You have a lot of people who, work in the coal industry. And then you have people voting on what the coal industry should do. And you're like, dude, you have no idea what the coal industry does. Why are you voting on it? It's a really weird situation to be in. Now, of course, there are certainly politicians who worked in a place and then went, to office. But one of the big challenges with a country as big as ours is that we have so many different industries now and more new industries popping up. Politicians have become just professional politicians. That's all they do is their job and their expertise is to manipulate you, to convince you to vote for them. Some of them have expertise for sure. Some of them are veterans. Some of them understand foreign policy and war. That's a good thing. But that's, ultimately all we're seeing is like these people who are in office aren't thinking about the ultimate ramifications. They don't necessarily know what they're talking about. The idea is a terrible, terrible idea, but they're voting for it anyway. It's just so crazy to me when you see Democrat individuals, the Democratic Party, voting to give up their right to Republicans. How does this make sense? Why aren't they thinking about this? It is mind-blowing. Could you imagine, a Republican winning the national popular vote and California being like, well, unfortunately now we have to give all of our votes to a Republican. What do you think the Californians would say? They'd be like, get out of this pact. No. So, it's mind-boggling because if they implement this, it's going to, in my opinion, I think it's going to make a Republicans are just going to dominate. And the key point is, as I mentioned before, think about all the red states, that give their votes to Republicans. Think about how populist they are. they tend to be less populous than blue states. Now, granted, Trump won because of like Ohio and Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of people there. But think about how many people in non-swing states that are blue, like safe blue states, who are Republicans don't vote. And then think about the safe red states that don't vote. The safe red states tend to have smaller populations. So if 10% of a red state is Democrat, and they don't vote because it doesn't matter, all of a sudden they will vote. Let's say Wyoming. Okay, now you're going to get, well, how many people live in Wyoming? Like 800,000 or something? Great. You just find yourself 80,000 votes towards the national popular vote. Congratulations. How many people live in California? 35 million? How many are 10? Let's say 10% are Republican. I don't know what the actual number is. Republicans just found 3.5 million votes. Guess what? That puts them over the threshold to what Hillary Clinton actually had. You see why this doesn't make sense? You are controlling massive populations, Democrats. Why would you sign this away? Look at this. These are the states and the amount of votes they have. Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, Illinois, Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado. These are blue states. I think Colorado could potentially, go red. I'm not entirely sure. But it's not Republicans giving away this right. It's Democrats giving up their rights to Republicans while they're going like, yeah, we can do it, guys. I swear to God. This feels like Republicans are probably going, no, wait, don't. Why do you think it is that it was the Democratic governor who vetoed this? It's because the Republicans are going, wait, Democrats, don't do it. Stop. Don't. Yeah, they don't care. This is good for Republicans. My God, I can't believe. If it was the red states doing this, then the Democrats would be going like, no, wait, don't, right? Anyway, the Electoral College is important. It's very, very important. It protects smaller jurisdictions from bigger jurisdictions. It makes sure that you who live in a, small town won't have your resources stripped away because the city 10 miles away outvoted your rights. This is why it's important. Think about, there was some conflict, I remember. I'm not entirely sure about exactly what happened, but when I was working for this Illinois environmental organization, there's the Great Lakes National Coalition or something. It includes Ontario, I believe. And Arizona and some other states were suing or doing something to try and get access to Great Lakes water, arguing that they're part of the country and they should have access. But then there's international ramifications because the waters actually border with Canada as well. And basically, the Great Lakes states are like, screw you, it's our water, we live here. And that's why it's important to separate things by jurisdiction, not necessarily individuals. Certainly we should protect the individuals. But think about what would happen if there was, you struck oil on your property and then the city next door voted to take it all away from you. Well, that's democracy. So you can't do that. Nevada can't seize water from Illinois. It's just, you can't do it. It doesn't work that way. Imagine if we switch to a national popular vote. Well, now all of a sudden you get a president promising to work with Congress and suspend the rights of Illinois and force them to give up their water to whatever other jurisdiction in the country. Now Nevada is going to be like, great, give us your rights, Illinois. Well, good luck. Great. Good job, Illinois. Illinois has signed on. Illinois has signed on. So now a president could come in and take away Lake Michigan's water from Chicago and start shipping it off to who knows what because your interests aren't being protected. Why would you give up your jurisdictional rights over your own resources? People aren't. And I'll end by saying this. It's exactly what I said earlier in that the people who run the show are as dumb as you or I. Nobody really knows what's happening. Everybody's got an opinion. I could be wrong. They could be wrong. But everybody thinks they know, There's no one who's actually sitting there looking at the data going like, hey, this proves it. It's just a bunch of people who are like, I'm going to do this because I think it's right. And then it is right or wrong. I don't know. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. Stick around. More segments to come shortly. The next video will be on my main channel, youtube.com/timcast. For those on the podcast, the arrangement may be different, but there will be more to come, and I will see you then.